November rain. A dim apartment on the edge of the city. One desk lamp still glows, its light falling over a stack of unpaid bills, a crumpled business card, and a half-empty cup of cold coffee. Outside, cars pass like ghosts. Inside, a father sits in silence, watching the cursor blink on an empty screen. 2 weeks ago, he had a startup, a wife, a plan. Now, all he has is a 6-year-old daughter asleep in the next room and the echo of everything he lost. There are moments in life when silence feels louder than failure, when the world doesn't end with a crash, but with an email, a sigh, and a door quietly closing behind you. This is not the story of success. It's the story of a man who fell apart and had to learn, piece by piece, how to become someone new. A story about what happens after the world stops believing in you, and how one small spark, one late night, one reason to keep going can change everything. Based on a true story, this is how a single father rebuilt his life after losing everything. Friday, 9:12 a.m. The office smelled like burnt coffee and old ambition. He sat at his desk, staring at the last email his startup would ever send. Subject line, "To all staff, immediate update." 20 words that erased 5 years of hope. He didn't move for a while, just sat there, watching the tiny rain dots slide down the glass walls of the meeting room where everything once began: the brainstorming nights, the laughter, the belief that they were building something that mattered. Now it was over. Servers shut down, investors gone, passwords revoked. He could already feel the questions forming in his chest before anyone asked them. What will you do now? How will you pay the rent? Are you okay? No, he wasn't. When he finally walked out, the rain had stopped, but the sky stayed gray, a kind of gray that seemed permanent. He took the bus home because he'd already sold his car last month to cover payroll. Every stop felt heavier than the last. At home, the apartment felt smaller than he remembered. The air smelled of crayons and cereal traces of mornings with his daughter, Hannah. She was 6, curious, full of questions he didn't know how to answer anymore. "Daddy, why are you home early?" He forced a smile. "Just finished work sooner today." It wasn't a lie, not really. That night, when she finally fell asleep, he sat in the dark living room. The silence pressed against him. He opened his laptop again, maybe out of habit. Notifications still flashed from old group chats, co-founders, clients, mentors, all gone quiet. The light from the screen lit up his tired face, highlighting the cracks that hadn't been there a month ago. He opened his inbox. Hundreds of unread messages, bank reminders, rejection letters, subscription renewals he forgot to cancel, and one new email from his wife. Subject: "We need to talk." He didn't open it right away. He already knew what it said. The distance had been growing for months, silent and invisible, like rust on metal. The startup had taken everything: time, attention, affection, and now there was nothing left to hold on to. When he finally read it, he didn't cry. He just closed the laptop and sat there, motionless, while the sound of traffic below faded into the night. Hours passed. The city dimmed. The hum of the refrigerator became the only rhythm in the room. He leaned back on the couch, eyes open, staring at the ceiling, the same ceiling that used to hold dreams. Now, just a mirror of emptiness. He thought about all the advice he'd given others when the company was alive. Failure is feedback. You learn, you grow. But now that it was his own life in pieces, those words felt like dust. Sometime after midnight, he picked up a photo from the table, the three of them, smiling in front of their old office. His daughter's tiny hand gripping his finger. He whispered to no one, "I tried." And in that moment, something inside him cracked. Not the kind of break that destroys, but the kind that lets truth spill out. He had nothing left to prove. No investors to impress, no deadlines to chase. Only a little girl asleep down the hall, and the long night ahead. He turned off the lamp. The apartment fell into darkness, quiet, heavy, complete. Only the rain outside remained, tapping softly on the window like it was trying to tell him something. A beginning often hides inside an ending, but he didn't know that yet. Sunday, 4:03 a.m. The city slept, but he didn't. The clock on the microwave blinked its soft green light across the kitchen tiles. A bowl from dinner still sat in the sink, half filled with cloudy water. The hum of the refrigerator was louder than usual, like the room itself was breathing beside him. He poured the last of the instant coffee into a chipped mug. No milk, no sugar, just heat and bitterness. It had been 2 weeks since the collapse. 2 weeks since the email, the silence, and the final goodbye. Every morning felt the same. He'd wake up before dawn, check his inbox, and stare at an empty list of new messages. Then he'd check his phone, scroll past the success stories, the smiling faces of former colleagues who had moved on. He wondered if they ever thought of him, or if he'd already been edited out of their memories. The air in the apartment was heavy with a kind of stillness that only comes after loss. Even Hannah, usually a storm of laughter and questions, had become quieter. She'd sit by the window with her crayons, drawing houses with bright yellow roofs and stick figure families holding hands. But lately, one figure was missing, the mother. He watched her from the kitchen table, his chest tightening. Sometimes she'd look up and catch him staring. "Are you sad again, Daddy?" He'd smile softly. "Just tired, sweetheart." Then she'd return to her drawing, humming something from a cartoon he no longer had the energy to remember. At night, after she slept, he would open his laptop again, not to work, but to search. How to start over, Anti-40. Freelance jobs for beginners. Can you rebuild your life after failure? The questions sounded desperate, but they were honest. He applied to everything: marketing assistant, translator, copywriter, even delivery driver. No replies, only silence. One night, he found himself talking out loud to the dark, to the walls, maybe to himself. "I used to lead a team," he said quietly. "I used to have meetings, goals." His voice cracked. "What happened to me?" Outside, the rain began again, soft and steady, the same rhythm that had followed him since that morning in the office. He listened to it as if it might answer, but it didn't. There were moments, brief ones, when the world felt almost normal again, like when Hannah climbed into his bed after a nightmare, her small hands clutching his arm, or when they cooked noodles together, laughing as she spilled too much sauce. Those seconds, tiny, fleeting, were what kept him breathing. He started to write things down, not business plans or strategies, just thoughts. What he missed, what he feared, what he still wanted to become. On one page, in shaky handwriting, he wrote, "Maybe I'm not starting over. Maybe I'm just starting true." It didn't solve anything, but it felt like air after drowning. The days blurred into one another: job boards, ramen dinners, bedtime stories, rain. But something quiet was changing. He was learning how to live inside the silence without letting it swallow him. And one night, while closing Hannah's door, he caught himself whispering, almost unconsciously, "Don't worry, little one. We'll be okay." He didn't know where that confidence came from. It wasn't hope yet, just the faint spark of someone who hadn't completely given up. He turned off the lights, sat on the couch, and looked out the window. The rain had stopped. For the first time in weeks, he could see a few stars between the clouds. Somewhere, deep inside, the noise of fear began to quiet down, replaced by something softer. Not victory, not peace, just silence. The kind you need before you can hear yourself again. Tuesday, 11:47 p.m. The apartment was quiet except for the gentle rhythm of keyboard clicks. The blue glow of the screen painted his tired face, eyes sunken, jaw tense. A cup of cold coffee beside him, like a loyal companion. Hannah had fallen asleep hours ago, her small body curled beneath a blanket covered in cartoon stars. He'd read her a story earlier about a knight who kept fighting, even when his armor was broken. When he closed her door, he realized the story wasn't really for her. It was for him. This was how it began, not with a grand plan, but with survival. He found a freelance job listing website copy needed. Low budget. It paid barely enough for groceries, but he sent the application anyway. He stayed up till 3 a.m., writing, deleting, rewriting. When he hit send, he felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in months: control. The next morning, the reply came. "We can try you for a small task." That single line felt like sunlight. He worked through the nights translating articles, fixing code, writing ad copy, anything that came his way. His laptop became his lifeline, his second chance. Each keystroke was a small act of defiance against despair. Some nights, he'd pause and glance toward Hannah's door, hearing her quiet breathing. He promised himself that somehow this would all lead to something better for her, for both of them. The days blurred into weeks. His sleep schedule collapsed into fragments, 3 hours here, 2 hours there. He lived on caffeine and leftover noodles, but every small payment that arrived felt monumental. It wasn't about money, it was proof that he was still capable, still useful, still alive. There were moments of doubt, of course, when a client vanished without paying, when an old friend sent a photo from their new office with the caption, "Back on track." He'd smile at the message, then close his phone and stare at the wall. But every time he felt the urge to give up, he'd open the notebook, the one filled with fragments of thoughts from those silent nights. On the last page, he had written 3 words in bold black ink: keep showing up. So he did. He learned new tools from free YouTube tutorials. He built a small portfolio. He started getting referrals, one client telling another he's reliable, even if he works from home. It wasn't glamour, it was grit. One night, around 2 a.m., while fixing a broken line of code for a client in Singapore, he caught his reflection in the laptop screen. Hair messy, eyes red. But there was something different, a quiet steadiness. He wasn't waiting for someone to save him anymore. He was doing it himself. Sometimes, Hannah would wake up and wander out, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, you're still working?" He'd smile, just finishing something important. Then she'd sit beside him, head on his arm, watching the moving lights on the screen until she fell asleep again. Those were the moments that mattered most, when exhaustion met love and purpose quietly returned. He didn't know it yet, but these long, lonely nights were building more than a career. They were rebuilding a man patient, grounded, and unafraid of starting from zero. And one morning, as dawn crept through the curtains, painting the room gold, he looked at Hannah sleeping beside him on the couch and whispered, "We made it through another night." The coffee was still bitter, the bills were still there, but for the first time, the future didn't feel impossible. It just felt waiting. Thursday, 10:26 a.m. The morning light slipped through the blinds, cutting lines across the messy living room. On the table, a half-eaten sandwich, a pile of invoices, and a small drawing taped to his laptop, Hannah's crayon sketch of the two of them, hand in hand, under a giant yellow sun. Underneath, she had written in shaky letters, "Daddy is my hero." He smiled faintly every time he saw it, though the word hero still felt like a stranger. That morning, as he refreshed his inbox, another freelance notification appeared from a client overseas. A digital marketing agency was looking for help rebuilding their website after their lead developer quit. It was a long shot, way beyond what he'd been doing lately. Still, something inside him whispered, "Try." He sent the proposal, heart pounding, like it was a job interview that could rewrite his entire life. Hours passed. Hannah came home from school, scattered her shoes in the hallway, and started talking about a field trip. He listened, laughed, cooked noodles. Then his phone buzzed. "We liked your profile. Can you start tonight?" He read it 3 times just to be sure. His hands shook a little. It wasn't a miracle, but it was a door. That night, after putting Hannah to bed, he sat in front of the glowing screen again this time. Not for survival, but for something closer to purpose. The work was challenging, full of bugs and deadlines, but he dove in completely. Every line of code, every client message, every long night carried a strange mix of fear and gratitude. At 3 a.m., when his laptop finally displayed "Project uploaded successfully," he leaned back and exhaled. The room was silent, but his chest was loud with heartbeat. In the following weeks, the agency offered him more projects, then a retainer, then the title lead contractor. He didn't celebrate with champagne or big announcements. He just bought Hannah a small cake and told her, "We did something good today." She grinned, icing on her cheek. "Did you win, Daddy?" He laughed softly. "Maybe I did." The word win didn't mean what it used to. It wasn't about status or validation. It was about mornings when he could buy milk without worrying, about nights when sleep came easier, about realizing that maybe success wasn't lost. It had just changed its shape. Sometimes, between tasks, he'd scroll through old photos, his startup team, his wedding, the office parties. They looked like memories from another lifetime, but instead of sadness, he felt peace. He remembered how he used to chase everything: recognition, expansion, achievement. Now he understood. He didn't need to build something the world admired. He just needed to build something that lasted for him, for her. One Sunday, Hannah sat beside him while he worked. She was coloring again, humming quietly. "Daddy, what are you doing?" "Helping someone fix their website." She tilted her head. "So you fix broken things?" He smiled. "Yeah, I guess I do." She went back to her drawing, and he froze for a moment, realizing she'd just described his entire journey, fixing broken things, starting with himself. That night, he updated his small online portfolio. Nothing fancy, just his name, his story, and a quote at the top: "Rebuilt from failure, line by line." He didn't know it then, but that line would resonate. Clients started messaging not just for his skills, but for his story. They said he worked differently, slower, more carefully, like someone who understood what it felt like to lose everything. He did, and that's what made him invaluable. The next morning, he woke up to sunlight, the smell of coffee, and Hannah's laughter echoing down the hall. The world hadn't changed, but somehow he had. The man who once stared at the rain through glass was now building again, not an empire, but a life. Saturday, 7:42 a.m. Light. Soft golden light spilling through the window, the kind that doesn't demand anything, just arrives quietly, like a promise kept. He stood by the small kitchen counter, pouring coffee into 2 mismatched mugs. The walls were still the same pale beige. The floor still creaked in the same corner, but everything felt different now. Not bigger, just alive. Hannah shuffled out of her room, hair messy, eyes half open. "Morning, Daddy." "Morning, sunshine," he said, handing her the warm mug of cocoa. She sat on the counter, swinging her legs, watching him with that simple trust only children have. "Are you working today?" He smiled. "Not today. Just living." The phrase slipped out without thought, but it felt right. He looked around, a laptop humming softly, sticky notes on the fridge, a small plant somehow still growing despite his inconsistent watering. Each object was proof of quiet persistence, the kind that builds not through power, but through presence. The air smelled like coffee and new beginnings. Later that morning, he opened the window and let the city sounds drift in: bicycles, vendors, the low hum of traffic. The same city that once felt like an enemy now felt like a pulse he belonged to again. He took a deep breath. It no longer hurt. It had been 2 years since the collapse. The debts were paid. The work was steady. And though some scars remained reminders of sleepless nights, of loneliness, of starting from nothing, he didn't want them to fade. They were proof that he had lived through it. Sometimes he still thought about his old life, the startup, the ambition, the version of himself that had believed success meant being seen. But now, he knew better. True success was quieter. It looked like a child's laughter in a sunlit kitchen. It sounded like the gentle click of a keyboard at midnight, building something from love instead of fear. It felt like peace that didn't need applause. He sat by the window with his coffee, watching Hannah chase a paper plane down the hallway. Her laughter filled the apartment, bright and effortless. For the first time in years, he realized he wasn't waiting for life to begin again. It already had. He picked up his notebook, the same one from those early nights, its pages now frayed and soft. He turned to the back, where he had once written, "Keep showing up." Below it, he wrote a final line: "You don't rebuild your life all at once. You rebuild it one quiet morning at a time." He closed the notebook and exhaled. The sunlight reached across the table, touching his hand, warming his skin. Somewhere in the background, the sound of Hannah's footsteps mixed with the distant city noise, life moving forward. And then, without realizing it, he smiled. Not the polite kind, not the forced one for a photo, but a real one born from stillness, from gratitude, from having finally found a place within the ruins. Because the truth was simple. He hadn't just rebuilt a career, he'd rebuilt himself. And that was enough.